Hello, everyone. Lisa Grace here from the Teach Middle East podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Richard Drew, and he is the principal of the Jumeira Baccalaureate School. And we are actually going to get to know him. So, we're all going to learn about him together because I've only met Richard just now. And so, he's going to tell me about himself, and you're going to learn about him, and we're going to learn about his work, his school, and what makes him tick. Welcome to the podcast, Richard.
Morning. Thank you very much for inviting me on. It's really a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad that you are so open to a conversation that's unscripted. A lot of times when we do these, people are like, "Oh, please send me the questions. I want to know what I'll be asked." I get nervous, but you are up for it, right?
Yeah, I might be a bit nervous, but I'm ready to go, and I'll try my very best to give you the information that you want about myself.
Brilliant. So I'll start off easy then and ask you to give me the Little Richard version. Not Little Richard, the one we know, but Little Richard, as in growing up. Where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit more about your background.
So I am from Nottingham, which is in the East Midlands in England. I am the youngest son of a family of four. I have two older brothers and a sister. And we were predominantly state educated, but my sister, who is number three in the family, won a scholarship to a fairly prestigious private day school in Nottingham called Nottingham Girls High School. And then when little Richard came along, my parents thought that might be a good place for me to go. So I went into the boys' high school, which was the kind of sister brother school across the road, and that had a real shaping on my life because we're a very sporty family. My father was actually a professional footballer and played for Notts County, which is the kind of lesser of the two clubs in Nottingham. Many people know Nottingham Forest, been in the news recently with a change of manager. But my father played for Notts County in the 50s. So very sporty family. And that changed my direction because it was an independent day school that played rugby and not football, and I was a football fanatic up to the age of 11, but then had to kind of change my game plan a little bit. Went through O levels, as they were called then. That now dates me, doesn't it? And then A levels, and went on to university to study physical education and teaching. So I went to do a 4-year Bachelor of Education's degree in physical education. So yeah, loved being outdoors. Anything sporty was me. We were very fortunate to be introduced to the snow from an early age through our parents, so enjoy skiing and still do. Also, surprisingly for some people, picked up a clarinet at the age of 11 and learned to play the clarinet. So I'm a decent clarinettist, and that comes out occasionally. Like to cook, because my mother was a chef, and had a really happy, as many people would reflect, family upbringing with very close brothers and sisters. There's only 6 years between me and my eldest brother, so we were all very close in age, 2 years roughly between each of us.
Brilliant. So you actually can play an instrument. I want
I
to
can't.
I want to segue into that. How important is it for young people, for children, to get into music and maybe learning an instrument, especially in these times when everybody's kind of glued to
For me, it's really, really important because I think it's, you can be many things in terms of your life growing up. Yes, you can have things. For me, it was sport, but also, learning music and getting involved in music brought a different dimension to who I was. And the kind of the patience and the rigor of practice and playing in an orchestra, as I did in the school orchestra and the school band, and wind quartets and things like that, and gave me an appreciation of a different side of things. So obviously, growing up as a teenager in the 70s and 80s, listening to the music of the time, the old punk rock era was in those days, but also having a real appreciation of classical music, and I actually, having played various classical pieces as I went through the grades with my clarinet playing, I still find it really relaxing and soothing to listen to, Mozart or whatever now. And I have two children of my own, and my wife and I were very keen for them to play a musical instrument. I always wanted to play the drums, but my mum and dad never did that. So guess what my boys do? They learned to play the drums from a very early age, and both still play the drums and play to a very competent level. So no, I think it's really important. But I think, just like sports, music, drama, arts and crafts, but anything that children can be exposed to, I think is really important because it just makes them a much more rounded person, hopefully.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I'm trying to get one of my sons, he's quite musical. I'm trying to get him to play something. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. And then
Good luck with that.
so you actually chose a path of education because you did a B.Ed.
Yes, I did. Yeah, the good old BEds. I I suppose I wanted to be a professional sportsman, um, and but my parents were very committed to us, doing well in school and getting a university education, and I suppose that always seemed like, being a PE teacher, always seemed like the next best thing to being involved in sport and being around sport if you couldn't be a professional sports person. And so, yeah, I chose a B.Ed in physical education, which meant that across the 4 years of my degree, I was always exposed to in-school practice. So we would do teaching practices every year for a block of time, and I loved working with young people in my area. I think I used to get as much pleasure out of helping those children who found sport difficult because they weren't naturally gifted or talented in that area, or the health benefits it, as much as working with those top performers as well. And during those my A level years and then into my degree, working at things like youth sport games or disabled sports activities that went on in a big city like Nottingham was a real lovely exposure to me, to working with young people and getting the benefits out of seeing them succeed and be happy and be successful or achieve, whatever that meant. It doesn't necessarily have to win, just achieving a better jump in the long jump or a better time on the track, or scoring a goal in football or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And so sports became such an integral part of your life that it actually took you professional. Tell me about that.
It did, yeah. So rugby, having gone to this independent day school where rugby was the be all and end all, and then loving the game, I carried on playing through university, and then basically was fairly successful at kind of representative levels, schoolboy level and university level, and then got picked up by Bedford Blues, who kind of were interested in me and said, if you get a teaching job around here, then we'd be interested in signing you on. But you have to remember, the game of rugby only turned professional in the early 90s. So when I started in the late 80s, I graduated in 89. It was still an amateur sport, although don't tell anybody, but we were being paid as well. So actually, it was a good income earner, as well as your lowly teaching salary as an NQT. I was also earning a little bit of money from playing rugby, which was known as petrol money or boot money. But then the game did turn professional, and it turned professional during the season when Bedford were in the second tier of rugby, but we got moved into the first tier through a decent season. So had a season playing on and off in the first tier of English rugby, which is now called the Premiership. And whilst I was then being paid for playing, I was also still a teacher as well, and it was still very much a professional stroke amateur game in a sense, as it still is today. Actually, it's only really the Premier League players that are fully professional. Even the Championship players, of which Bedford is still in the Championship, are kind of on a hybrid contract of some professional money and some private money through jobs that they do. But like lots of rugby players, got a pretty bad knee injury, and that kind of finished my playing career at the age of 26, actually. So, yeah, it was a short but sweet career, which I enjoyed, and still have a lot of fun being involved in rugby now. My two sons are very involved in playing rugby as well. So.
Yeah. So do you follow any team around? Do you follow the England team?
I have a soft spot for Bedford Blues because I played, but my eldest son has been involved with the Northampton Saints academy as well, so we very much follow the Saints.
So then your career as a teacher took you from the United Kingdom to where? Where did you go first, or did you come straight
So
to Dubai?
my first uh, kind of journey outside of the UK was to Australia. So I basically got involved with something called the Teaching Exchange Program in Australia, and I went to Perth, Governor Stirling Senior High School, which was a pretty rough and ready state school. It was quite interesting because it lived next door to a school called Guildford Grammar, and Guildford Grammar is a school where do you remember the actor Heath Ledger who
Yeah.
played um, various main roles in Hollywood. He was an ex-pupil of Guildford Grammar, and there was a fence that split the two schools. And Guildford Grammar's side of the school, the grass was lush and green, and the Governor Stirling side, it was all dry and burnt, and it was definitely the haves and the have-nots. So I did 18 months in Perth working there, and then came back as part of the exchange program. I had to come back to my school that I was working at in Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire, and then kind of then developed a journey into leadership. Became a head of department, then a director of sport, then assistant head, and a deputy head, and then a head teacher, and then moved out to the UAE in 2009, to be involved in the PPP project in ADEC, actually, which was still involved with Talim, who I still work for now. But that was when Talim were in a joint partnership with a company called Edison Learning from the UK.
That's interesting. 2009. I came in 2010 as a part of the PPP with North Anglia.
North Anglia, yeah. So we both worked in the same project. Yeah, I was the lead advisor for two schools, one in Banyas and one in Shamka.
And I was in Al Ain for three schools, one in Jali, one in Mwaji, and one in Zaka. That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
No, and that experience for me, those 2.5 years, because the project, as you know, kind of closed down 2012. But I learned a huge amount about me as a person, the culture of the UAE, living and working with Emiratis, which was fabulous, and I think it stood me in real good stead for me coming into Dubai, for the last kind of 10, 12 years of my career. But a really wonderful time. And, I think the opportunity to see things really move forward and grow and build relationships with not only Emiratis, but other Arab teachers from, the GCC and beyond. No, a very, very fond time. And I'm still in touch with some of those teachers and those guys from that period of time. But I learned a lot about myself, actually, because it was, as you will know, Lisa, it was kind of very different to what we would have been experiencing in the UK, and you having to think on your feet and do things differently, and also think about the culture of the country and the kind of way in which people were learning at that time.
Yeah, I think when I look back at that time, I think I had a whole lot of fun. A whole lot of fun. At the time, I didn't realize it was fun until it ended. I was like, oh, that was actually quite nice. And there was so much I learned, so much change that I had to witness and be a part of. And it was fabulous. I mean, I then went on to work directly for ADEC for several years. But I think during that PPP time, those initial times when we were just all coming in and everybody was like, what are these people here to do kind of thing? It was
Mm.
quite a
No,
learning curve.
and I think I'd never. It's amazing what you have to learn to do. So really fond memories of working with two translators, one in each school. Ahmed Hirsch was a guy from kind of Beirut, and he basically was my translator, and some really funny moments of having to kind of talk to some grade 12 boys in a pretty stern way about an incident that we were not too happy with, but him having to translate it into Arabic so they could understand, and me saying to him, excuse me, you need to be really, really quite stern when you say this, and whether he was saying what I was saying, I don't know, but it was definitely a learning curve for sure.
They say that you have to trust the translator. I think my translator was called Sarween. So hey Sarween, I don't know where you are in the world, but it was a very interesting time. So then you moved into leading your current school.
No, I didn't. There was a little bit of a hiatus period. So Talim and Edison kind of parted ways, and then Talim asked me to join them as a direct member of staff and move to Dubai. And so then I basically had a couple of years where I was kind of moved around the company a little bit. So I spent some time at a number of the Talim schools in Dubai, supporting, helping out, sometimes where there were problems with staffing issues at senior leadership level, and just supporting the principals. And then that was how I ended up at JBS actually in 2015. They'd had a newly appointed principal, had only been in post for a short period of time, and sadly he'd taken quite seriously ill. So they asked me to step in to look after the school in his absence. But then it became apparent that he was not going to be well enough to return. And obviously they thought I'd done a good job, so then they offered me the job more permanently, and that was 11 years ago, and I'm still here. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting journey at the time, and stepping into schools, and again, those lessons learned from the PPP, having to be able to be flexible and learn the layout of the school, how the parents worked, how the school worked, who the leadership were, and support them as best you could. Probably stood me in good stead, actually.
11 years in the same school, Richard.
11 years, yeah. I must be one of the longer serving principals in Dubai, and probably one of the longer serving principals in one school. I'm sure there are others that have done a lot longer. You might know that more than I do, but yeah, I'm certainly the longest serving principal in the Talim group by some way. Yeah, one of the longest serving staff members of Talim. If you count my time with the PPP, it will be 16 years as of December, I think.
Yeah. So you were there during Ross's time.
Yeah, well, even before Roz, with Ziad, actually, Dr. Ziad was the first
Ah,
CEO,
yes.
and ironically, Dr. Ziad is still around, and is very much involved with Talim from an ownership management point of view. But he's also a parent of mine. His 3 boys are at my school,
Oh,
so
wow.
I see Dr. Ziad most days, and we sometimes smile and laugh about the past. Such a great guy to have as a parent, and also as a colleague. He's a huge amount of knowledge. And then Roz took over from Dr. Ziad, so I worked with Roz for some time, and now Alan. So yeah, I'm on my 3rd CEO.
Tell me what makes it easy for you to stick around that long, because it's not easy for many people to stick around.
Oh, that's a really good question, and I think it's a mix of professional and personal. I think um, stability personally, when you've got a young family, and my boys were really young when we came here, 1 and 3, and having stability for them to be here, and for them to go through their education here. My eldest is about to start university actually next week, so he's come through the whole journey. So yeah, wanting stability, and actually really being very fortunate to live and work in Dubai, bringing up a young family, safe for your family, for your wife, opportunity, fantastic opportunities. As if anybody's listening and they've only been here a short period of time, or they don't know Dubai, fantastic opportunity to bring your children up, the parks, the beaches, all of those things. So that really appealed. But professionally, I think it was always about JBS when I took over was much smaller than it is now. We've kind of almost doubled in number, and we're at capacity, which has been fantastic for the school and for Talim. But always wanting to, what can we do better next? What can we grow? What can we develop? How can we improve? And having that opportunity to be in one school for that period of time allows you to see that journey through. I mean, I've always thought that school improvement is a little bit like an ocean liner. If you want to turn the ocean line around, it doesn't turn around, in 30 minutes. It turned around in a few hours, because you've got to stop the liner first of all, and you don't just stop an ocean liner from traveling one direction, but it takes time for it to stop. Then you've got to maneuver it round. Then you've got to bring it back to the point with where you decided you were going to do something, and then you've got to carry on the journey. And I think that that's something that is a real challenge here in Dubai, because the fast-paced nature of the environment and people wanting things to change instantaneously. And I don't think schools and institutions can change instantaneously. I think you've got to build a culture, you've got to build relationships, and you've got to get the right people. That old adage of getting the right people on the right bus in the right seats is really true about institutions, and certainly here in Dubai, that's as true as anywhere else in the world.
So I think it was a good mix of you personally wanting to stay around, to grow your family, and to grow the institution in which you were made to lead. So tell me about JBS then. What are you excited about that you guys are doing there now that you want to shout about? Shout about it, Rich.
Oh, I having been here for 11 years, I love JBS. I drive into work every morning with a smile on my face. It's a great school in the heart of Jumeira. We're an IB school, which we're really proud of. We've got a fantastic community, which is somewhere in the region of about 93 nationalities at the moment. I love the dynamic of our local community, our Emirati parents who are so supportive, our French community who are so supportive, and then the mix of everybody else. We're really passionate about the character of the school. We're a character education school. One of the first, I think, in the world outside of the UK to gain the Character Mark Plus award, and a school of good character links in very much with the IB learner profile, and what that actually means to be a member of the JBS community. So we're excited about that. We're excited about the continued growth of the school in terms of its provision for extracurricular activities, ECA, sports, and also developing young people that are going to go out and be leaders in the world. I think it's really important that when you have, we have about 20% of our population are local Emiratis, and when you've got that commitment to Dubai and the wider UAE world, it's really important for us to grow those young people and to be the next leaders of the country, and getting them off to great universities, and being successful in what they do. But I think more importantly, it's a school where people are happy, and can belong and can feel that they can grow and develop, and that's from parents to teachers, but more importantly to the students. We're really proud of our inclusion work that we do here at JBS, and we have a program called Inspire and Aspire, which has children in it that have some serious learning needs, but we embody them into the heart of the school, and they are our students, and they wear our uniform, and they do all the things that all the rest of our students do, with the support of some really talented teachers and para teachers and support staff as well. So yeah, it's really exciting times for us to continue to grow and develop, and we're maturing into our skin a little bit. We've kind of gone through the teenage years, and maybe now we're in our early 20s, and we're really settling down and developing things and structures and systems that a growing school needs to have, and becomes more challenging as you get more students in the school.
I love that. I love the fact that you look at it as a child, then a teenager, then a young adult, and now your school is a young adult, and it's maturing, and it's has its own way
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that analogy.
And you know, I think as well as myself, we've got many staff who have been here 5, 6, 7 years. In fact, I'm not the longest serving member of staff. A number of other staff have been here 11, 12 years. You know, which goes to show, well, you have that mix of new, young, dynamic blood or experienced young blood coming into the school, which always gives you different eyes on your practices and what you're doing. There's also that core of staff who've been here a long time, who know the families, know the students. You know, some of my grade 12s who will be graduating next year have been here since you know, KG1, KG2, as long as I have, and I've seen them come in as little ones and are now, you know, taller than me and smarter than me and are hopefully going off to do wonderful things. But I've seen their journey and I've lived it with their families as well, which is fantastic, as have quite a few staff here at JBS now.
Isn't that just beautiful? Isn't that just the greatest
It is.
thing?
I think, you know, you if you kind of are listening to this and you want to know about my philosophy of education, you know, education and learning is important, but so is happiness and health and safety. And I genuinely believe that if people are happy and healthy and are safe, then they will learn. And I think the longer you know those people, know those families, then that happiness and health part of it and safety part of it comes more into play. And you know, there are many families here that I've known for a long time, again, as have many of the staff, and it is like a big family, actually. And when you're an expat and you live away from home, I think your friends and what you do are really important. I think, and in school you're very lucky because you've kind of almost got an instant family to wrap around you if you allow that and you grow those relationships.
I really, really love that. You know, I think it's every parent's dream that the person who leads the school is someone who is committed to the school for the long haul. I know for me as a parent, that's what my dream is. I'm lucky though. My kids go to a very, very good school here in Abu Dhabi where the principal's been there for a decade. I don't know now if I've given it away, but whatever. Like, so at the end of the day, you want that because you want that leadership to remain consistent. And sometimes things change for different reasons. I get it, but that consistency is to be celebrated. So I'm giving you your props, Richard. Well done for
Oh,
sticking
thank
to
you
it.
so much, thank you. Now, parents ask me, you know, I've heard you're leaving, and sometimes I say, well, that's news to me, but you know, I'm not, and obviously there will come a point in my career where it's time to call it a day. But I kind of, as I sit here and feel at the moment, I feel that JBS, you know, will be my last teaching role. You know, it's the school that I will finish teaching at. Whether I go on to do other things outside of teaching afterwards, you never know. But that's how strongly I feel about it. You know, I couldn't see myself at this moment in time sitting here ever going to lead another school either in the UAE or in another part of the world. It feels like this is where I want to, you know, finish and complete, and that has symmetry to it, because by the time, you know, I am ready to do that, then I will have seen probably those pre-K students through. That there will be still some of them here. There definitely are still some of them here. I know they are. I will have seen them through from when I started to when they finish to when I finish, and that feels like a nice place to be. You know, the symmetry of that.
Yeah, it is. So then let's project into the future a little bit because I always like to ask this question. What do head teachers do when they stop being head teachers?
I suppose it depends at what age they are. I mean, I will be, you know, working towards the end of my career. What will I do? If I'm not working professionally, which may be in a supportive role of a group of schools. I mean, I already have an executive principal role with the group, so I support many of our other schools in certain ways, particularly around leadership and professional development for both staff and students. And then I also have a role with the IB, so I'm the chairman of the UAE IB Association, which was an association that existed and then kind of through COVID and afterwards died a death, and then we resurrected it. So we're fairly new in terms of the resurrection of the association. We had our first conference in February of this year where over 500 teachers turned up for a whole Saturday, which was wonderful. So I'm busy with that. Whether things like that kind of carry on. But you know what? I'd really love to think that when I do call it a day working professionally and working for a salary, wherever I am, I could give back. And this sounds crazy, but I'd love to go back full circle, and I'd love to, maybe be that older gentleman listening to younger children read, or in my sporting capacity, run the under-9s boys or girls football team for a primary school for free, just because, that's what I like to do. That's the kind of thing I see myself doing. And also, obviously, hopefully following my boys around a little bit and seeing them play rugby on a Saturday or a Wednesday or whenever it is. So yeah, that's where I see myself going.
Oh, brilliant. Last question. That was so wholesome. I think my listeners know the kinds of things I like to hear. That was just so wholesome. Last question. When you are not in school, Richard, and you're not leading JBS, how are you taking care of you? What are you doing?
Well, if you're around at about 5:30 in the morning, you'll see me up at El Qudra on my bike with anybody who wants to ride with me. We have a little cycling group here at JBS, but I sometimes think they don't want to ride with the principal on a Saturday morning. So I ride around El Qudra, 50k, 60k, 70k, whatever. It's a bit more challenging at the minute, hence the early starts because of the weather. Yeah, so I like to cycle because the knees are a bit shot. So cycling helps. I like to cook. So I've got my mum's kind of interest in cooking. I love cooking. I love cooking just generally during the week, but I love cooking for people to come around and have dinner. And yeah, I love to engage with my two sons and go and see them play rugby or other sports that they're involved in. But yeah, hopefully trying to be active. I still manage to ski even though the knees are a bit shot once a year. Take a few Panadol and get out on the slopes. So the outdoor life is good. So we're waiting for the cooler weather to come in so that we can get down the beach or go out walking or whatever. So those are the things I like to do.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with me, Richard. It's been
It's
very, very lovely.
no, it's been my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me. It's been great talking to you.